In the winter of 1999, when the internet was still young and conspiracy theories traveled mostly by word of mouth, a thin, unassuming manga volume appeared on the shelves of a small bookstore in Tokyo's Kanda district. Its cover was simple: a pale city skyline, split by a jagged black line running through the sky like a wound. The title was written in modest kanji, easy to miss among louder, flashier series. At the time, almost no one paid attention. 26 years later, that forgotten manga would be whispered about across the world under a new name. The Prophecy of 2025. What made it terrifying wasn't monsters, demons, or apocalyptic battles. It was something far worse. It was accuracy. 1. The manga that shouldn't exist. The manga was called Kuroya Yogan, the Black Prophecy. Its author, Hajime Aoyama, was a quiet, reclusive artist in his early 30s who had never achieved commercial success. He published mostly short, philosophical works that blurred the line between science fiction and social commentary. Critics described his stories as unsettling but impractical, too bleak to be popular, and obsessed with inevitability. Kuroya Yogan was his most obscure work. It ran for only 12 chapters in a small monthly magazine that folded within a year. No anime adaptation, no reprints, no fanbase. After its publication, Aoyama disappeared from the public eye entirely. For over 2 decades, the manga gathered dust, until someone noticed something impossible. 2. A student's discovery. In April 2024, Yuki Tanaka, a graduate student studying cultural history at Waseda University, was researching fictional predictions in Japanese literature. Her thesis focused on how post-war manga reflected social anxieties about technology and disaster. One rainy afternoon, buried deep in the university archives, she came across a yellowed copy of Kuroya Yogan. At first, it seemed unremarkable. Then she read Chapter 3. The chapter depicted a city struck by a massive earthquake at exactly 1446, followed by a towering wave swallowing the coastline. The panels showed panicked crowds, collapsing buildings, and a black sea filled with debris. In the corner of one panel, almost as an afterthought, a date was written. March 11th. Yuki froze. March 11, 2011, the date of the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami. The manga had been published 12 years earlier. 3. Too many coincidences. Curiosity turned into obsession. Yuki read the rest of the manga carefully, taking notes, comparing dates, details, and imagery. The more she read, the colder she felt. In Chapter 5, a panel showed people wearing masks, standing 6 feet apart, with empty streets and shuttered shops. Above them floated text like a broadcast message. Invisible sickness. The world pauses. Fear spreads faster than breath. The chapter's margin contained the number 20.03. COVID-19, 2020, March. In Chapter 7, a man stared at multiple screens showing flags, missiles, and breaking news. A caption read, "The age of quiet war ends. Borders bleed without soldiers crossing." The year written beneath was 2022. Ukraine. Global tensions. Hybrid warfare. Each time, the details weren't vague enough to dismiss as coincidence, but not so explicit that they screamed prophecy either. They lived in that terrifying middle ground where denial becomes difficult. Then Yuki reached the final chapter. Chapter 12. 2025. 4. The Final Vision. Unlike the earlier chapters, Chapter 12 was darker, more abstract, and almost entirely silent. Few words, heavy black ink, broken panels. The opening page showed the Earth from space, but fractured, like cracked glass. Thin lines of light ran across continents, converging on cities. On the next page, people stared at their phones in horror. Not screaming, not running, just staring. A single line of text floated above them. When everyone knows at the same time, panic becomes permanent. The next pages depicted power grids failing, skies filled with strange lights, and oceans behaving unnaturally, tides pulling back farther than ever before. One panel showed a digital clock frozen at 0-100. Another showed an eye, wide open, reflecting countless screens. And finally, the last page. A black background, white text. 2025. The year humanity realizes it is not alone, and not in control. No explanation, no monster, no alien ship, just realization. 5. Going public. Yuki knew she couldn't keep this to herself. At first, she shared her findings anonymously on a small Japanese forum dedicated to obscure manga. Her post included scanned panels, publication dates, and comparisons with real-world events. The reaction was immediate. Some dismissed it as cherry-picking. Others accused her of exaggeration. But a few users dug deeper, and found something chilling. The original publication date of Kuroya Yogan was verified, August 1999. The magazine's print run was tiny, but authentic. There was no evidence of later edits or reprints. Within weeks, the thread spread beyond Japan. English translations appeared on Reddit. YouTube channels made videos titled, "The Manga That Predicted Everything. Japan's Forbidden Prophecy, 2025. Are We Being Warned?" Millions watched. Governments did not comment. 6. The disappearance of Hajime Aoyama. As interest exploded, journalists tried to track down the author. What they found raised even more questions. Hajime Aoyama had officially vanished in 2001. No death record, no immigration documents, no known relatives. His small Tokyo apartment had been emptied, except for one thing, a notebook left on the floor. A single sentence was written on the first page. "I did not predict the future. I remembered it." The notebook ended there. 7. Theories begin to multiply. As 2025 approached, theories about the manga divided the world into camps. The skeptics said it was coincidence, confirmation bias, and vague symbolism interpreted after the fact. The mystics believed Aoyama had access to some form of divine or cosmic knowledge. The scientists proposed time perception anomalies, retrocausality, or subconscious pattern recognition taken to an extreme. And then there were the archivists, a small but growing group who noticed something even stranger. Hidden in the background of multiple panels were repeating symbols, a triangle inside a circle, broken by a vertical line. At first, it looked like meaningless decoration, until someone matched it to an obscure mathematical symbol used in theoretical physics to represent observer collapse, the moment when observation changes reality. The manga wasn't predicting events. It was describing reactions. 8. 2025 begins. January 1, 2025, arrived quietly. No disasters. No announcements. No skies opening. People laughed nervously and said, "See. Nothing." But then small things began to happen. Unrelated systems failed simultaneously across different countries, financial networks, satellites, undersea cables. Not enough to cause panic, but enough to cause confusion. Strange auroras appeared in regions where they shouldn't exist. Animals behaved erratically, birds abandoning migration routes, whales beaching themselves in unusual patterns. Scientists blamed solar activity. Then, in February, an international research team detected a repeating signal from deep space. It wasn't a message, it was a pattern, a mathematical pattern identical to the symbol hidden in Kuroya Yogan. 9. When everyone knows, governments attempted to control the narrative. Official statements were careful, cautious, vague. But in the age of instant communication, secrecy collapsed. The signal was real, it wasn't random, and it wasn't natural. Social media exploded. People didn't riot, they didn't scream, they stared at their screens, just like in the manga. Markets wobbled, then froze. People questioned everything: religion, science, history, human importance. The panic wasn't loud, it was quiet, internal, existential. Exactly as Aoyama had drawn it. 10. The true horror of the prophecy. As analysts reread Chapter 12, a horrifying realization emerged. The prophecy never showed destruction. It showed understanding, humanity discovering that it was being observed, or had always been observed, by something older, more advanced, and completely indifferent. The manga's final line wasn't a threat, it was a diagnosis. The year humanity realizes it is not alone, and not in control. The terrifying part wasn't invasion, it was humility. 11. The last hidden panel. In late 2025, a collector in Osaka discovered something no one had noticed before. His copy of Kuroya Yogan contained an extra page, possibly a printing error, possibly intentional. The page showed a person reading a manga. Their face was reflected in the page itself. Above them were the words, "If you are reading this, the cycle continues." No date, no explanation, just a mirror. 12. Unsolved, unfinished. Today, Kuroya Yogan is locked away in archives, studied by scholars and watched by intelligence agencies. Hajime Aoyama remains missing. The signal from space continues, unchanged. Was it a prophecy, a warning, a coincidence stretched too far, or a message sent not through time, but through culture, waiting for the right moment to be understood? No one knows, and perhaps that is the most terrifying mystery of all.